What's up, everybody? John Eric Pauli here with My MMA News. Purposely wearing a gold tie today because gold represents a champion, and today's guest is the current defending and reigning Bellator flyweight champion. Pleased today to be joined by Liz Carmouche. Of course, she'll be defending her title in a rematch against Juliana Velasquez at Bellator 289. That fight date, December 9th. Let's welcome Liz in here. Liz, nice to see you. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you so much.
So let's back up to the moment, the last fight when you got your hand raised, because for you, you're a pioneer of the sport, a pioneer of women's MMA. You've been around for so long. You competed for a number of titles. This was the first time that you finally got to, claim this title in a major promotion. What was that like when you got your name announced and they got the belt wrapped around your waist?
It was surreal, all these years and always trying to do, like you do all your mental focus and your mental groundwork and you picture things happening. And I pictured the events and the results, my hand being raised, and then totally forgot that part of that hand being raised is the belt around the waist. As I went to walk off and was like, oh yeah, this is what I'm here for. Not just the win, but the belt. So it's definitely a surreal moment in thinking that I was finally able to do that, and with such a great organization like Bellator.
And then afterwards, she wasn't too happy with the way how things played out and went as far as to protest the decision. Don't see that a lot. We see people complain, but going to protest is kind of that extra mile. Just your thoughts on all of that transpiring the way how it did.
Yeah, to me, that's not a champion's behavior. There have been plenty of fights where myself, my opponent, their entire fight team, everybody, with the exception of the people that made the actual call for the fight, thought that it should have been my fight. And never did it cross my mind to trying to go to peel it. All I thought was, okay, I need to go back to the gym. I need to go back to the drawing books, and I need to make sure this never happens again. And I need to fix it and correct all the mistakes and work that much harder. It never even occurred to me, suing is not my nature. The appealing, it doesn't make sense to me. Like, a true champion is going to realize that, all right, they just never let that happen again. Like, a true champion is going to work to better themselves and make those corrections that evolve. So it came as a huge surprise to me.
And what's crazy too is the position you had her in, you had her in a pretty bad spot there. And I believe you even said afterwards too, right? Even if she tried to move and get out of it, you felt that you had her in a position where she was done for in that fight. So just talk about that a little bit before we move on to the specifics of now this upcoming rematch.
Yeah, in that moment, I felt like I had seen when the light bulb went out and when she checked out, and I was just elbowing to an opponent that wasn't present. Right. But I had already said in my mind, no matter the results, no matter if she's in danger and I feel like it's not there, you get the false tap or anything, I have to go until the ref pulls me off. If that's at the cost of my opponent, I have to. And there have been other opportunities where I backed off because I'm like, man, I think this went too far with something. And my opponent, and I was like, you can't do that this time. You can't. This is the belt. And that was the second elbow. So that meant 10 other elbows came after that, where in anybody else's mind, that would be called a late stoppage, not an early stoppage. She did absolutely nothing to progress her vantage point. She didn't bridge. She didn't go up the cage, use her feet. She didn't move her hand. She didn't move her head. She just looked up to the sky and checked out as elbows rained down on her. That to me says that not only was I right in what I assessed and I saw and then watching the fight later, but also that the referee made the correct decision when he stopped the fight when he did.
All right, so now all of that now leads to this rematch. Let's start getting into the specifics of this. We'll start with training camp. It's going on right now. I didn't even realize that we were talking before we came on air. You're now in Virginia. Obviously, you're in California mostly. Just talk about training camp a little bit, the move across the country for camp, and how it's all been working out.
Yeah, my wife and I have been talking about for years, and even different coaches and stuff, that it would make sense for me to have a focal point just be the fight camp, and for me to go away, no distractions, no other obligations, just be selfish and just focus on the fight camp. And I had full-time jobs. I was never able to do that. I was having a hard enough time finding time to train, let alone go away and be able to afford that. And then all my coaching staff was in San Diego. So it made no sense to go to a camp with people I don't know, with coaching staff that doesn't know me, to go train with them. And then my coach, his wife got a job opportunity here on the East Coast. And so they moved out here, and I had said to him, like, hey, if you guys do move, because it was kind of a talk and a discussion, I'm like, would you be comfortable with me going out there and doing my fight camp with you? And he's like, of course I would. So I'm like, hey, by the way, I'm coming out to do my fight camp. And so he set everything up, found great training partners, great gyms, and then he's a coach that I trust that if he told me to go jump off a bridge because it'll be better for the fight, I'd be like, okay, I'll go jump off the bridge then, whatever you say. So I have full faith in his ability, and it's been a great training camp as a result. And I've been able to be selfish out here before. Like I said, if it was like one of the coaches had something else going on, doctor's appointment, whatever the case, I'm like, hey, I can't make 11 a.m. Can we move it to 2 p.m.? Here I am telling my wife, like, hey, I'm sorry, I can't meet you for lunch, like I said. And then I feel bad. And now I'm like, yeah, if anything changes, cool. I'll just go to this training, go to here. And it's been great. And then also the talent pool that's out here. I had no idea that there was as many talented people. I didn't know the history of Virginia with wrestling. I didn't know that that anybody that knew judo was out here. And I was wrong. There are so many talented people out here. They just don't voice the talent that they have and tell the whole world and showcase it.
And what's cool with all this too is something that I find very rare, right, for this training camp. So just to put this in perspective, for me, during COVID, I essentially made the decision that I'm going to focus on this career and making a name for myself for interviewing fighters in the sport. Now I've gotten to the point that I'm doing interviews on a pretty regular basis now. So it's coming up, it's going to be almost 3 years. And this is the first time that I've interviewed a fighter that I've interviewed fighters before rematches, but never a rematch where it goes back to back. Essentially, for you, for training camp here, it's a back-to-back opponent here. It's essentially training for the same person. Kind of rare. What's that like for you? I know you've been around the block. Is this something that's new for you too? And what is it like to have, a rematch where you're going, like I said, essentially back-to-back training camps for the same opponent?
Yeah, it's completely new for me. I've never been in a position where an opponent's got a guaranteed rematch, no matter the circumstance, not myself or anybody else. If I've ever had a rematch with an opponent, it's been years between. So we've both evolved as fighters and are going in with different preparation for the camp and different anticipation. And I'm still treating this as if it's a brand new fight and not anticipating that she's going to come out and be the exact same person she was before. I anticipated for Camp Smart that they're making tweaks and changes that I'm going to have to on the whim change as well and adapt to, which is also the more exciting thing, knowing that I'm not going to face the exact same opponent, but that I'm going in there facing somebody that's adapting and growing as well.
And what's interesting too, whenever I ask a fighter before a rematch, I always say, like, would you go back and watch the first fight at all? And so some will say yes, but a lot of people say no, because like you said, usually there's time in between and you grow and evolve, and essentially it's two different fighters now at this point getting in there. But for you, being that it's back to back, how much do you go back to that first fight and kind of analyze that and pick things apart from it?
Yeah, I'm that person when it comes to my fights. I'm trying to rewatch it that night to see what I did wrong. Like I'm my biggest critic. I'll see mistakes. My coach will be like, you did fine, you did good. I'm like, no, I did this wrong and I did this wrong. And here's pages of what I should have done and I did incorrectly. And this is no different. Whether it was rematching her or not, I was going to go back and study what my performance was and the mistakes that I saw and the things I did correctly, to see that if I evolved and integrated everything that I've been working on as much as I wanted to, or there was more to be done. So whether I was facing her or not, I'm still just trying to be my best version. If she can come out and be her worst version, her best version, it does not matter to me. What matters is, am I growing? Am I evolving? Am I showcasing all the work that I put in, that my teammates put in with me, my coaches? And that's what I'm trying to improve on and make sure that I do in this fight as well.
And I guess along those lines too, obviously she did have some success in the fight. I'm sure obviously you said you probably watched it back that night. I guess now that you're in camp, do you kind of work on those types of things right there? Like, okay, in this last fight, I did this wrong here and we're going to correct this right now. And she won't even be able to have any of that success this time around?
Yeah, absolutely. My coach is big too on seeing the mistakes we made in the fight and being able to fix those. And again, whether I was facing her or I was facing somebody else, those mistakes could have been taken advantage of by anybody. And the mistakes were mine. It wasn't her capitalizing something or being better at me than something. It was that I made mistakes and she was able to take advantage of those mistakes. It wasn't anything other than that. So there were certainly things that I needed to go back and I needed to fix that my coach and I had planned, whether she had this fight or not.
All right, one last thing on this fight. Just how do you see it playing out?
I see it being a second round stoppage this time. Instead of it going to the fourth, I'm going to stop her in the second.
All right, bold prediction there. Now, I do want to actually end going outside of the cage here for just a moment. You, of course, are a veteran. You've made that pretty clear throughout your whole career. It's something that you take a lot of pride and passion. Just talk a little bit about that before we wrap things up here. Just about your line of service that you were in and how you got involved with it, and just kind of just the years of experience here of being close with the military family.
Yeah, I was an electrician in the Marine Corps for 5 years and 4 months. Deployed to Iraq 3 times. My father had been in the Air Force, so I definitely veered off the path by going to the Marine Corps. Neither of my parents wanted me to join the military at all. I was surrounded by so many different Marines that I looked up to that to me epitomized excellence in so many different factors of their lives, not just in their professionalism as Marines, but also in their lifestyle outside of that. And so it was something that they just were exemplary people, and I looked up to them as a source of guidance, that it seemed like there's no other option but to be a Marine. And I knew that college wasn't for me. I tried it and I was doing my best to do it, but it was just banging my head against a wall. I hated it. And I knew that the only path for me was to go down the Marine Corps, because at that time I wanted to be a professional athlete, but I just didn't see how that could happen. But the military seemed much more tangible. And I was able to fulfill that, and then even extend my contract a little bit longer to go out to do one more tour to Iraq with HMM 268.
All right, I know you have other media obligations. Just to wrap things up today, social media that you have to plug, any management sponsors, anything like that. Floor is yours. Take it away.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, I am mainly on Instagram and on Facebook. On Instagram, I am Gorilla. On Facebook, Liz Carmouche Official. Right now, I am with First Round Management with AJ Arioso, who is hustling, trying to get things done. And then big thank yous to Road Warrior Foundation. They're a nonprofit veteran organization, and they reach out and help injured veterans. And everything I want to do and all the relationships I'm trying to foster now are to be with veteran-owned companies and operated or benefit veterans. So I'm also with two coffee companies, Wind and Sea Coffee, that's a CBD coffee company owned and operated by a veteran, and then Moster Coffee, which is also owned and operated by veterans as well.
All right, Liz, we'll let you take off there. I know you have other obligations through Bellator to get to today. Really appreciate you making the time for this interview. I also just want to thank everyone that made time to watch today's interview. Really appreciate everyone that views these interviews. If you like the interview, please make sure to go to the bottom and give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to this YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. And just want to remind everybody to keep going to MyMMANews.com, checking out all of our great work. We also have great social media pages, so make sure you go to Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Give us a like and a follow on there as well. We'll see you later, everybody.